Kathy, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'd ask the others.
Oh, wait for the mic.
I've asked this to the other candidates. I'd like to know, given the events that have been happening in the Middle East recently, the fact we have 3 mosques here in Bakersfield, one of which has a madrasa attached to it. I'd like to know what you are doing to inform yourself personally about radical Islam from their own holy books.
Let me tell you what I know about Islam. First of all, I mentioned that my parents were immigrants. My father was Greek. My mother's parents were Armenians. And if you know anything about world history, you're aware that almost 100 years ago, Christian Armenians were slaughtered by Muslims in Turkey. I know a little bit about the effect of what you call, quite correctly, radical Islam. But I've also traveled throughout the Middle East, and I know Muslims who are not terrorists, who are not what we would call radicalized. And in fact, every scripture, every holy book, has elements in it that are good and that are not so good. And they can be interpreted in ways that are beneficial and that are harmful. I think the thing we need to be careful of in talking about religion is that this country was founded almost entirely on the basis of the belief that we must respect everybody's religions, everybody's ideas, everybody's practices, everybody's traditions. We are a country that would not exist today, that would not be as great as it is today, but for that principle. Now, it doesn't mean that it should be a suicide pact. We should not say, practice whatever religion you like, even if that includes killing me. Well, okay, we're not morons. But what we must not do, and what I would caution you not to do, is to overreact. When I was living in Detroit, working for CBS, there was an attack on the federal building in Oklahoma City, you all know. And there was a Michigan connection. There's almost always a Michigan connection to every big story. And I don't know if you know the map of Michigan, it looks like that. And in the thumb of Michigan, there's a town called Decker. And there's a farm in Decker, Michigan that belongs to the Nichols family. And Terry Nichols was one of the conspirators that blew up the federal building, the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. But when the story broke, the first thing we all heard was, it was Muslims who did it. And the first thing I did was to go, there's a large Palestinian community just outside of Detroit. And the first thing I did was to go there and talk to people in that community to ask, what do you think about all this? Well, it didn't take us long before we figured out that was a red herring. But we shouldn't jump to conclusions. We should treat each other with respect, understand each other, get to know each other better. That's how you avoid being victimized by radicals, by working together with people throughout our community. And I say one last thing, if I may, about this. I was very moved by the reaction of the Sikh community here in Bakersfield. You all, I presume, know we have a sizable Sikh community. How moving it was that we all got together in front of City Hall one night and we had a candlelight vigil, and I was moved by what they said. I mean, we all were asked to make speeches, but the Sikhs themselves talked about how they forgive and pray for even the perpetrator of that terrible crime in Wisconsin. It's hard for me to imagine doing that, but I really admire that inclusive, tolerant spirit, and I wish that we would all learn a little bit from them while keeping our own traditions too. And I thank you for the question.